What's up everyone, I'm SmugStick and welcome to the Dragon Ball Iceberg. Some of you may remember that I have done an iceberg previously, covered one by Woodland Buckle. However, this one is much more complete with much more information and it's gonna be much longer, I can already tell. So I've decided to split this video up in a couple of parts. If you don't know what an iceberg is, then let me explain real quick. An iceberg is a meme format, quote unquote, where the most well-known information, or sometimes the most safe, is up at the top. As you keep going down, you see what's beneath the surface and uncover the rest of the iceberg and even the depths below, finding more surprising information about your favorite franchises and topics. So here we are. This is my Dragon Ball Iceberg, and without further ado, let's begin with the surface. 4 anime series. Dragon Ball, though originally a manga, is most well known for its anime adaptation, starring Masako Nozawa as Son Goku in the original Japanese. There are 4 series: Dragon Ball, covering Goku's childhood to the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, Dragon Ball Z, continuing the story from the Saiyan saga to the Buu saga, being the most famous and popular of the series, Dragon Ball GT, an anime-only story taking place after the original sagas. It's pretty short, and most didn't like it when it first came out, though it has seen a sort of resurgence online, and I personally do like it quite a bit. It is most well known for having Super Saiyan 4. Finally, there's Dragon Ball Super, which recaps the first 2 new-gen films, Battle of Gods and Resurrection F. Then it goes on to tell new stories up to the Tournament of Power. Super, unlike GT, has a manga version of itself as well, running monthly on V-Jump. This is the most recent series, and it's still going in manga and movie form. Hopefully, we get a weekly anime soon again. There's also another anime series, a promotional anime for the Super Dragon Ball Heroes arcade game, but that's not part of the main 4 that people usually talk about, so we'll save that one for later. Macy's Day Parade. In 2018, Goku was announced as an upcoming balloon at the Macy's Day Parade. He's still currently in the lineup and has been there to promote various Dragon Ball movies and video games. And every single year, the broadcasters will pronounce the word Saiyan in a million different ways. Goku v Superman. The endless debate. This is probably the most famous power scaling debate of all time. Goku and Superman are similar in many ways, so it makes sense to line them up against each other. Both of them have incredible power and were saved from a doomed world. And in Goku's most recent interpretation of his origin, he was saved by his parents, just like Superman. Toriyama had also previously parodied Superman in Dr. Slump, so it was obviously on his mind. Comparisons were going to happen. This debate has been featured in many places through pop culture, including a couple of times on Death Battle and even epic rap battles of history. Budokai Tenkaichi 4. I wrote this entry a few months ago, but now Budokai Tenkaichi 4 is real. This was the most wanted video game from any anime franchise. We don't know much about it yet, but Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube all exploded when this was announced. We got a short trailer, but everyone's hopes are up. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 is the most popular Dragon Ball game of all time, and people have requested this one for years. But originally, this entry was about the passionate modding community behind Tenkaichi 3 and the many Tenkaichi 4 mods out there, but now it's about both. So I want to applaud all the awesome modders out there and celebrate Tenkaichi 4's announcement. Gogeta's face. This is just something that people like to point out and notice. If you split Gogeta's face in half, one half you can see Vegeta's face and the other Goku's. This is just a small detail people like to notice. Akira Toriyama. Born April 15th, 1955, Akira Toriyama is the creator of the Dragon Ball franchise. He was discovered at the age of only 23 years old. Toriyama submitted a one-shot manga to Weekly Shonen Jump. Kazuhiko Torishima read it and encouraged Toriyama to pursue this work, even though he couldn't accept it because it was a parody of Star Wars instead of an original manga. Toriyama eventually got a manga published, Wonder Island, published in Weekly Shonen Jump in 1978. But none of his manga did well. That was until Torishima suggested that he switches to a female protagonist, creating Tomato the Cutie Gumshoe. It did better than his other manga ever did, so he decided to give it one last shot, creating Dr. Slump, starring a little girl robot named Arayli. It began serialization in 1980, but he wanted to end it just a few months after starting. But because it was a huge success, he was only allowed to end it if he'd promised to do another one soon. He put out a few one-shots and short manga until 1984, when Dragon Ball began. It ran from 1984 to 1995, and easily became his most famous work, and even perhaps the most recognizable name in all of manga. He's still very much involved in Shonen Jump, as he's been a judge in several of the contests they hold, and has been an inspiration to nearly every big name in Shonen Jump after him. He now works alongside Toyotaro, creating the story for Dragon Ball Super, as well as writing the stories for the movies. Sandland, one of the manga he made after Dragon Ball, is also getting a movie adaptation soon, which I'm very excited about. Gohan the MC. Toriyama originally wanted Gohan to become the main protagonist after the Cell games. However, he soon realized that Gohan's character just wasn't suited for the role compared to Goku. This is not to say that Dragon Ball was meant to end with the Cell saga, which is a rumor many talk about. With that being said, the revelation that Gohan was meant to be the main protagonist came from an interview in Daisenshu 2. Minus. As an extra chapter in Jacko the Galactic Patrolman, Dragon Ball Minus is a prequel to Dragon Ball, where Goku is sent to Earth by his father Bardock and his mother Gine. Then, Jacko is assigned to Earth in order to stop Goku, but fails to do so. This new version of Goku's origin was adapted into Dragon Ball Super Broly, and with much more content. Name puns. Most Dragon Ball characters have name puns based on something. All pure Saiyan names are based on vegetables. The Ginyu Force is all dairy products, Gohan means rice, Frieza is freezer, cooler's cooler, you get the point. Though, I will likely make its own video on the subject. It's over 9,000! Over 9,000 originated from a dubbing mistake when Vegeta reads Goku's power level for the first time and breaks his scouter, screaming out his power level being "It's over 9,000!" In reality, he actually says over 8,000, but that hasn't stopped Funimation and Crunchyroll or whoever from capitalizing on the meme. It's been all over the place, including on Oprah.
His group has over 9,000.
I'd also like to point out that for the TV version of Dragon Ball Z Kai, Vegeta says over 9,000.
It's over 9,000! What? 9,000?
While the Blu-ray and DVD version, he says 8,000.
It's over 8,000! 8,000!
The TV version was obviously made for a more general audience, so including that was on purpose. That's why they also keep a lot of the English names for attacks in Kai. For the TV version, Goku's Bite. This has become a recurring joke in Dragon Ball. Goku has bitten many of his enemies through the series. This includes King Piccolo, Frieza twice, Kid Buu, Beerus, even Broly for a split second, and even Whis. It's become a thing now, and I think it's really funny. Sonic/Dragon Ball Z. Fans through the years have realized many similarities between Dragon Ball and Sonic. 7 Dragon Balls, 7 Chaos Emeralds. Sonic is a counterpart to Goku. Super Sonic is not only named after, but is visually a reference to the famous Super Saiyan transformation. Perhaps the most damning evidence of this was that there was a file leaked called Sonic Next _ script, which had character descriptions and the full script of Sonic 06. At the end of Silver's character description, it mentions, essentially, think Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. This is obvious through the game, as he comes from a desolate future and returns to the past to try and save it. During Sonic's 27th anniversary charity stream, Shiro Maekawa, the scriptwriter for Sonic 06, said that the base model for Silver was actually from Dragon Ball, and that was Vegeta's son, Trunks. So we were going to take that model and build around that for Silver. Episode of Bardock. Released in September 2011, this special has Bardock being sent back in time before the Saiyans arrived on planet Plant. He faces Lord Childe, the ancestor of Frieza, and transforms into Super Saiyan. The manga was drawn by Naho Oishi, with Lord Childe being designed by Akira Toriyama himself. The original Dragon Ball films. The original Dragon Ball movies refers to the 4 Dragon Ball and 12 Dragon Ball Z movies that came out while the series was still running. None of them fit the original story's continuity, though it does spark up debate. The movies have different titles depending on where you are in the world, as the Japanese title is usually long and hard to figure out which one we're talking about, so fans usually go by the movie's dub name or just the number of the film. The non-canon Dragon Ball movies are the following: Curse of the Blood Rubies, Sleeping Princess in Devil's Castle, Mystical Adventure, Death Zone, World's Strongest, Tree of Might, Lord Slug, Cooler's Revenge, The Return of Cooler, Super Android 13, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, BoJack Unbound, Broly's Second Coming, Bio Broly, Fusion Reborn, Wrath of the Dragon, and finally, released as a Dragon Ball celebration movie for its anniversary, Dragon Ball Path to Power, which was a reimagining of the first few arcs of the series. They all had some involvement from Toriyama, mostly just character designs, but this would change in New Era Dragon Ball films. 4 new films have been released as a quote-unquote rebirth of Dragon Ball, starting in 2013 with Battle of Gods, followed by Resurrection F, Broly, and Dragon Ball Super Superhero. All of them have had much more involvement from Toriyama than the previous ones, as he writes scripts, gives ideas, and designs characters. TV specials. There are a number of Dragon Ball TV specials, many of which I will cover later on, since they're more obscure. The ones everyone knows about are Bardock the Father of Goku, which reveals one version of Bardock's venture against Frieza, The History of Trunks, which tells a story about Trunks' future timeline and Gohan's struggles against the androids, and A Hero's Legacy, taking place years after the end of GT and focusing on Goku Jr. and his quest for the 4-star Dragon Ball. Team 4-Star. Team 4-Star is an internet parody group most well known for creating the Dragon Ball Z Abridged series, and some spin-offs off of it. It's a humorous, shorter take on Dragon Ball, which many people love, though it has stirred some debate amongst the fandom. In particular, some of the jokes from the series are repeated as misinterpretations and sometimes misinformation of the original source by some fans. Even so, I think they have a place in the legacy of the show.
Goku's here!
Goku's here!
Kai. Dragon Ball Kai, or Dragon Ball Z Kai as it was known in the States, was a remastered version of Dragon Ball Z, which removed most of the filler, cleaned up the image, and added a whole new soundtrack. The original run only went up to the end of the Cell Saga, however, it was later revived in 2014 to finish up the Buu Saga. When it comes to the Funimation English dub, the script was changed, so it was much more accurate to the Japanese version than the original Z dub ever was. Final chapters. Kai's version of the Buu Saga. There are a couple of different versions, the international and the Japanese version. The version we got had the opening changed from Kuzen Setsugo to Fight It Out, and we only got one ending, unlike the multiple ones Japan got. The episode count was also different, 61 in Japan and 69 internationally. Episodes 101, 102, 103, 106, 108, 111, 113, and 165 do not exist in the Japanese version, and contain largely filler material. The final chapters was originally envisioned as exclusively for Western audiences, but that plan was obviously changed. Tip of the iceberg. Toriyama hates Vegeta. This comes from an interview in Daisenshu 2, where Toriyama explains that he doesn't like Vegeta, but he's been really useful to have around as a character. It seems like he has warmed up to him over the years, however, because within the March 2014 Psycho Jump issue, Toriyama explained how he would like Vegeta to be the main character of a future film. Cellin. Cellin is a what-if absorption in Budokai 1. As the name suggests, he was a product of Cell absorbing Krillin. In the game, he ends up becoming an extremely weaker version of himself and is defeated by Yamcha and Tien. Cellin is no more, or so you thought. As it turns out, this was an awful nightmare and Cell wakes up in a cold sweat. There are other what-ifs in the game, such as Vegeta turning Super Saiyan on Earth and defeating Goku, and Frieza getting immortality. Hironobu Kageyama. Hironobu Kageyama is one of the most important characters when it comes to the Dragon Ball mythos. From a meta standpoint, he was known as Mr. DBZ for a while, because he was so prominent in Dragon Ball, singing not only Chala Hechala and We Gotta Power, but many other image songs, insert songs, and just random songs in Dragon Ball albums. He is a member of Jam Project, whom you may know from openings such as The Hero from One Punch Man. He no longer works for Dragon Ball stuff. We'll talk about the reasons why later on, but he makes appearances here and there in events, such as the Dragon Ball Battle Hour. Shunsuke Kikuchi. He was the original composer for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and passed away a couple of years ago on April 24th, 2021. He's also worked on Doraemon and Kamen Rider. He retired from composing for Dragon Ball after Dragon Ball Z ended, but his music was still used in video games. And later on, he replaced Kenji Yamamoto, whom we'll talk about later on, as Kikuchi's score was used for Dragon Ball Z Kai once Yamamoto was forced to depart. His soundtrack was heard all over the world, though in English-speaking countries, particularly North America, his soundtrack was replaced to be more American, with that soundtrack being the one which most people here grew up with. Kenji Yamamoto. Kenji Yamamoto was a composer for the franchise that was mostly involved in the video game soundtrack and the original run of Kai. When Kai was about to finish airing in Japan, it was revealed that he had been plagiarizing many of his songs. He was promptly fired, and Kai's soundtrack was replaced with Shunsuke Kikuchi, the original composer for Dragon Ball Z. And the revival of Kai for the Buu Saga was done by Norihimo Sumitomo. Here are some of his most well-known tracks. Toriyama's involvement in the Dragon Ball Super manga. The Dragon Ball Super manga has been a subject of debate amongst the fandom. Not only does it have many differences from the anime, but 2 whole arcs yet to be adapted to any other medium. Toyotaro works alongside the original author, Akira Toriyama, for it. Toriyama often corrects his drafts and provides outlines for the stories. With that being said, Toriyama is not the full-on writer for the Dragon Ball Super manga, something the English release of it would lead you to believe. There are many hands in the Dragon Ball Super basket, including Toei and Bandai. Toriyama's plot ideas are used and interpreted by Toei and Toyotaro. The manga largely served as a promotion for the anime, until like halfway through the Universe 6 arc, where it started to deviate significantly, and Toyotaro was given more creative input. Now we have 3 whole manga-only arcs. What ifs? The concept of what ifs is very old, but probably most famous because of Marvel Comics and their What If series of comics, where we're shown alternate realities where the characters make different choices. Dragon Ball fans love these, as they are popular in video games such as Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, Heroes, Xenoverse, and many more. The idea of a video what if was popularized by the Spanish-speaking fandom, and later in the English fandom by Masako X and the others. I make what ifs myself, check them out. Kansenshu. Kansenshu launched on April 1st, 2012, as a fusion, if you will, of 2 prior Dragon Ball fan sites, Daizenshu EX and Kanzentai. It is a very valuable source of information, as they have compiled and translated many interviews with the Dragon Ball cast and crew. They really build the story of the franchise. They are composed of the main website, the forum, and the upcoming wiki, Namekian Book of Legends /Yamoshi. Shenron mentions the Namekian Book of Legends as having the knowledge for the Super Saiyan God ritual. Yamoshi was a kind-hearted Saiyan who stood up against the evil Saiyans and achieved a legendary form. Though his power was great, he perished against the evil Saiyans as his godly power ran out. The spirit of Yamoshi then wandered through the universe looking for more pure-hearted Saiyans, and appeared before a Namekian elder who sympathized with his story and wrote it down. The Legend of Yamoshi is also going to be an animatic series by Geeks for Fun, and I'm gonna be voicing a character, so look forward to it. Zalama. The creator of the Super Dragon Balls and Super Shenron, he made them in the 4th year of the Divine Calendar. Little is known about this being, and some interpretations of it have the dragon himself be named Zalama, such as the English dub. Power scaling is comparing characters' power within the series or against other verses. This has been popular for years, and one of the franchises that popularized it was Dragon Ball. Death Battle is a web series that pits various characters from different franchises against each other. Goku, Vegeta, Buu, and some other Dragon Ball characters have appeared. Dragon Ball AF. Dragon Ball AF was a fan-made manga series, and, huge rumor? There have been dozens of versions of AF, as many different fan artists tried their hand at a Dragon Ball sequel under that title. Artists such as Toyotaro under the name Toyble, Young Gigi, and Prince Gas Vegeta have all taken their shots at this name, with Toyotaro's being probably the most recognizable thanks to his original character, Zycor. Strongest Buu? A debate that never seems to die down in the community. There are statements in the anime and the manga that imply different things from each other, leading to the debate of Kid Buu or Super Buu, Go Unabsorbed, being the strongest one of them. Nowadays, most people seem to agree it's Buuhan, but the debate rages on every now and then. He's not being Goku! The "he's not beaten Goku" meme. It's a way to mock the Dragon Ball fandom, because certain Dragon Ball fans like to reply to people liking their own characters and franchises, or talking about debates, arguing that it doesn't matter because they're not defeating Goku. No one's beating Goku. Who do you know is beating Goku? It's mostly just a joke.
He not beating Goku. He not beating Goku. He not beat. Nobody could beat Goku. Who you know beating Goku?
Censorship. Dragon Ball has gone through a lot of censorship in the past, and even now. In the Viz manga, many of the instances of nudity were changed, and the dub localized many names, censored blood, changed lines, and more.
Nice move, but your shoe came untied.
I'm not going to fall for that. I don't even have shoelaces.
Darn. I guess you're a little smarter than the average Saiyan.
Mr. Popo was made blue in 4-kits, and attack names referring to weapons had their names changed, such as the Gallic Gun to the Gallic Blast. One of my favorites is changing halos to little glowing balls. The most recent example, and one that went semi-viral within the fandom, was Caulifla being more modest, quote-unquote, by having clothes drawn on in different countries. Dragon Ball based on Journey to the West. I think everyone knows this at this point. I thought of maybe even putting it one step higher, but it's worth explaining still. It's a very old Chinese novel named Journey to the West, which served as inspiration to the Dragon Ball story. Goku is based on Sun Wukong, a monkey-like being that eventually faces off against Buddha. He even has a flying cloud and an elongating staff. I go further into detail in this in my Why Did Toriyama Make Dragon Ball video, so be sure to check it out down below if you want to learn more. I wasn't sure where to put these following to. I couldn't quite gauge how many people know about this, so I decided to put it somewhere towards the top. I don't know, it landed here. Dragon Boy. Dragon Boy was a precursor to Dragon Ball. It's a 2-chapter manga by Akira Toriyama and released a year before the first chapter of Dragon Ball was published. It features a boy named Tang Tong, who accompanies the princess of the Flower Country back to her homeland. He owns a dragon jewel, which allows him to summon a dragon if he uses his ki. The Adventures of Tongpu. This is another precursor to the Dragon Ball manga, and was once again released 1 year before Dragon Ball was published. It features a lot of proto-Dragon Ball things, such as capsules, and the two main characters are very similar to Goku and Bulma, and often find themselves in similar situations. Great Scientist Bardock. In the ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta claims that Goku's father was the scientist who created the artificial moon, creating this misconception.
As a matter of fact, it was your genius father who invented this little technique.
My father?
We ran into some radical weaponry on Rygal 7, and things were looking grim until your father did this.
21. Android 21 is the most famous Dragon Ball character to come from a video game. She was designed by Akira Toriyama for the Dragon Ball Z video game Dragon Ball FighterZ. She was an android created by Jiro's machine and based on Vami, Jiro's wife. She has amnesia, but a great hunger, which she quenches by creating clones of the heroes and eating them. She has an evil half in a human form. Both of her sides died, as the good one sacrificed herself to save the universe. Jiro's past. Dr. Jiro's past has been talked about a lot recently because of the new movie, which is why it's relatively high. Akira Toriyama revealed in an interview that Dr. Jiro had a son named Gevo who died while serving in the army. He was the basis for Android 16, and it seemed that's the reason he didn't want to set him free. Android 21 was the mother of Gevo, who had a sibling who then had a kid named Dr. Hedo, who would eventually follow his grandfather's steps and create new androids. Bonyu, another video game character. This one was designed by Toriyama for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. She was an original member of the Ginyu Force, who was forced to leave it because she just couldn't do the poses. Her name is a pun of breast milk, and her data was found in the ship Goku took from Yardrat. America Latina Tournament of Power. Dragon Ball is huge in Latin America. The world was exposed to this the most in 2018 during the Tournament of Power arc in Dragon Ball Super. Many places had huge showings and even posters advertising it, like it was some kind of UFC fight. It became such an issue that the Embassy of Japan sent a letter to Mexico on behalf of Toei Animation demanding them to stop the showings as it infringed upon copyright. In the end, most showings still happened. Later, when Dragon Ball Super Broly premiered, it was revealed that the soundtrack of the movie was inspired by the chants of Latin American fans during the Tournament of Power showings. This wasn't just Mexico either, it happened all over Latin America. One Piece crossovers. One Piece and Dragon Ball have had several crossovers. The most well-known one is Dream 9, the Toriko, One Piece, and Dragon Ball 2-part special, where heroes compete in a tournament. The most important one to me is Cross Epoch, a manga special where Toriyama and Oda collaborated. There is a 2003 special named Kyutai Panic Adventure, also featuring Astro Boy, and many other eye catches, video games, and more. The Dream 9 Toriko One Piece Dragon Ball Z Super Collaboration Special. As I mentioned earlier, this is the one that most people know about. The characters enter a food-based tournament and even fight each other and giant monsters. The second half was recently dubbed and aired on Toonami, with the first half going undubbed as Funimation doesn't own the rights to Toriko anymore. Shallot. Probably the second most well-known Dragon Ball character to come from video games. This is the main character and the player avatar for Dragon Ball Legends. He's a Saiyan of old who has a twin named Giblet, or Giblet? He was teleported to the present from planet Sadala and has achieved up to Super Saiyan God, but his story continues through story updates. He is voiced by Kenji Akabane in Japanese and Alejandro Saab in English, aka Kagi Films, who used to be a really popular Dragon Ball YouTuber. I actually got to meet him, he was a really nice guy. Dragon Ball Heroes. The 6th installment in the Dragon Ball Cardass series, released in 2010 for Japanese arcades. It is by far the most profitable and successful Cardass game. The game is played using cards, each of which represents a different character in the game. Players also use avatar cards, with many races such as Saiyan, Android, Majin, Kaioshin, Demon, and Frieza race included. In 2016, the game was rebranded to Super Dragon Ball Heroes, with updated visuals. The game largely follows the Time Patroller's struggles against the demons, and has been adapted into manga and anime, which we'll talk about later on. There are also 3 3DS game ports, and one for the Switch and PC, named World Mission, the first Dragon Ball Heroes thing to come stateside. It is known for many what-if scenarios, such as Gogeta fighting Super Buu, Super Saiyan 4 Gohan, and more. It is pure fan service, though it's kind of wholesome. It shares a lot of DNA with Dragon Ball Online and Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Mira and Towa. Mira and Towa are 2 of the most prominent antagonists to not come from the original manga. They were originally made for Dragon Ball Online, a Korean MMORPG. Towa is the sister of Dabura, and she created Mira as her android. He's also her husband. The 2 of them had a kid named Fu, who's also become a prominent character. They are some of the main villains of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 and 2, and also made cameos in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Dragon Ball Online. Dragon Ball Online was a Korean RPG announced in 2007, but released in 2010. The servers were up in Korea, Hong Kong, and Taiwan until 2013. It was in this game where we were first introduced to the Time Patrollers, as Time Patrol Trunks is a prominent character, and was our first taste of what Trunks was up to after the original Dragon Ball manga. The main story is set in age 1000, hundreds of years after the ending of the Dragon Ball manga. The Earth in this game is now populated by not only humans, but also Majins, Namekians, and Saiyan hybrids. There are many cool things that come come from the story, as we get a look into what happened to our heroes post-manga. I'm not gonna go through all of it, since I am gonna make a video on this subject, but to give you an example, Goten and Trunks begin a sword fighting school, Krillin and Tien begin the new Turtle School and the new Crane School, respectively, and Goku and Vegeta go off into space to have one final battle. Years later, a supernova can be seen, and that's the last time we hear of them. Probably my favorite thing about it is that Gohan writes a book all about ki control, which sparks a boom, and the interest in martial arts begins, thus setting up the story for the game. Towa and Mira, the Time Breakers, are going through space and time, messing with reality, and it's up to you to stop them. The spiritual successor to this game was Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Heroes. According to Bandai Namco, Akira Toriyama had a lot of creative control, including story elements and character designs. S-cells. Toriyama added context to Saiyan biology in a Q&A from the January 2018 issue of Saikyo Jump. He explained, "It's not like anyone can become Super Saiyan through training and anger. In order to become a Super Saiyan, one's body must contain something called S-cells. Once S-cells reach a certain amount, a trigger such as anger will explosively increase the S-cells and cause the change in the body. That's Super Saiyan. Most Saiyans have some S-cells, although not a great quantity. The reason why Goku and Vegeta's children can become Super Saiyan relatively easy is probably because, to a certain extent, they inherited a lot of S-cells, and also because Earth's environment is gentler and easier to live in than planet Vegeta. Having a gentle spirit is the best way to greatly increase one's S-cells, but most Saiyans have trouble with this, which I think is why no Super Saiyans appeared for such a long time, that they became the stuff of legends. However, one can reach the quantity necessary for becoming Super Saiyan simply by having a gentle spirit, so a certain amount of battle power is indeed necessary. Zycor. As mentioned earlier, he is perhaps the most famous fan-made Dragon Ball character. He is the son of Goku and the West Supreme Kai, though despite what some may believe, he's not literally the son of Goku, in the sense that Goku cheated on Chi-Chi, but rather the West Supreme Kai tricked Goku and took his DNA. He attacks Earth after the events of GT, and battles Gohan, Vegeta, Trunks, and Goten. Sadly, Toyotaro's AF was never finished. Daizenshu. The most well-known Dragon Ball guidebooks, made up of 7 main volumes and 3 supplemental ones. 6 of them contain interviews with Toriyama himself. The 7 books were Complete Illustrations, Story Guide, TV Guides 1, World Guide, TV Guide 2, Movies and TV Specials, the Dragon Ball Encyclopedia, the Card-Ass Perfect Files, the Card-Ass Perfect Files 2, and finally, the TV Animation Guide Part 3. They were published between 1995 and 1996. Toriyama explains he had little involvement in the creation of them, and it was instead Shueisha who gathered all the information. Even so, many fans view them as quote-unquote the Bible of the series. Dragon Ball Super Superhero Oreos. You remember the obsession Dr. Hedo had with the Oreos in Dragon Ball Super Superhero? Well, he did. The reason behind this was the collaboration Oreo had with the film. The packaging featured many different characters from the film for a short period of time in Japan. Chala Hechala Face. For some reason, many people don't know who the face in Chala Hechala is supposed to be. Some think it's Kami, but that's not the case. It's Dr. Gero. You can see his mustache. I think the confusion comes from the fact that many countries out there didn't receive all versions of Chala Hechala, only the Cell Saga one. So from the very start of the Saiyan saga, a lot of us were seeing his face. There is actually one more phase I want to point out in Chala Hechala. Not many people notice this, because it's literally a blink it and you miss a moment. But at the point in the opening when there's a flash of light, and something that looks like a keyball coming down, you can actually see there's someone inside, none other than Vegeta, flying towards the camera. Koyama and Broly. Takao Koyama is a Japanese screenwriter responsible for the majority of Dragon Ball Z movies. His greatest creation is probably the legendary Super Saiyan Broly. In the Dragon Box The Movies Dragon Book, a book which came in the collection of the movies, Koyama said that there is no one stronger than Broly, even in the main anime, saying that kids even cried during the movie. Later on, when Battle of Guts premiered, he said that Broly was much scarier than Beerus. Starting in 2003, Toei Animation began releasing the Dragon Boxes, DVD sets of the Dragon Ball anime, beginning with Z. They were made in very low quantities and each came with a Dragon book with facts about the series and interviews with those involved. The box has awesome designs by Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, one of my favorite Dragon Ball artists. The source of the footage was the original 16mm film reel, the closest we'll ever probably get to direct cell animation. With a remastering process done by Pony Canyon as to reduce the damage of the aging film, it is important to note that that they are in 4:3 aspect ratio, something important to hardcore Dragon Ball fans, as it is the way the series was meant to be watched. They were one of the very first times the series was released in home media in its home country, surprisingly enough. They have been regarded by fans as one of the best ways to watch the series. Dragon Ball Z was divided into 2 parts. GT received 1 set, Dragon Ball 1 set as well, and finally the movies received 1 too. Later, in the States, the Dragon Boxes Z came out in 7 different volumes. Though the American version did receive some special features such as the Dragon Books, they lacked some others. They're extremely hard to find in English and go for a pretty penny, though the Japanese ones are a little easier to find. In Japan, each Dragon Box also came with a special present if ordered early on. The first came with a figure of Goku, the second one of Piccolo. The GT Dragon Boxes came with a Dragon Radar, the movies with a Scouter, and the original anime with a really cool display of the Tenkaichi Budokai designed by Toriyama. These were filled with special features, such as rare TV specials, textless openings, and some episode previews. They weren't perfect, and were missing a few things such as the preview for Dragon Ball GT. But Dragon Ball has been messed up so many times when it comes to home releases that this is still one of the best ways to watch them. The Orange Bricks. The Orange Bricks are the name the fandom has given the 2007 remastered season sets. They are the most common Dragon Ball sets you can find out there. They're still being released even if with some different packaging. They have many issues, which sucks because, as I mentioned, they are the most readily available version of Dragon Ball out there. Perhaps the biggest issue it has is the fact that they're cropped. Around 20% of the vertical image is lost, while only gaining 5% of the horizontal. This was done to make it seem more modern, because we don't watch things in 4:3 anymore. Everything is in 16:9. This means many issues because there's reframing needed. Sometimes characters' faces are cut off, colors are off, etc. Sadly, this is not the last time Funimation would do something like this, as the Blu-ray season sets suffer from similar issues to a lesser extent. The 30th anniversary Blu-ray set attempted to fix some of these things by having it be in 4:3, but it had its own myriad of issues, including digital noise reduction, which damaged some of the image. It's worth noting, however, that the Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT counterparts to the Orange Bricks don't have exactly the same issues, because they didn't go through the same remastering process and are still in 4:3. Neko Majin Z. Neko Majin was a short series written and illustrated by Toriyama with a total of 8 chapters. As the chapters continue, Neko Majin Z becomes the focus of a large part of it, and in a way turns into a sort of sequel to Dragon Ball. Goku shows up training Oob and Z, Frieza has a son, and a brand new Saiyan named Onio shows up. It's a fun, gag-filled series, and as much as I wish it was canon, there are some things that make it difficult to fit in properly, since Vegeta is working for Frieza. Manga versus anime differences. Obviously, there's gonna be differences between the original source and its adaptation. The most obvious thing, besides it just being not animated and not in color, is probably the fact that there's no filler, but it goes way beyond that. Piccolo in the manga has 4 fingers, while Majin Buu has a mitten-like hand. He only has like 2 fingers. In the anime, he has a full set of fingers. In the anime, Goku gets hit by Bulma's car. In the manga, Bulma stops right before hitting him. The Z Fighters help Gohan during the beam struggle against Cell. In the manga, it's just Vegeta. Gregory, King Kai's cricket, was made exclusively for the anime. He doesn't show up in any of the manga, except for the manga adaptation of Yo Son Goku and his friends return. Some of the gore is also toned down in the anime, such as the scene where Dr. Gero picks someone up from their car and crushes their neck. Also, the manga version of History of Trunks is quite different. Trunks is already a Super Saiyan by the time we see him, while in the anime, it's Gohan's death that triggers it. There's many more differences in Dragon Ball Super, but I feel like that's probably an entry for later on, because that can get a little complicated. Dragon Ball's altered ending. For the Kansenban, or perfect, release of the Dragon Ball manga, Akira Toriyama made a few alterations to the ending. He added a few pages to the end of the fight against Kid Buu. This makes it a lot nicer and well-rounded. But the biggest change, in my opinion, is the added scenes to Oob and Goku's departure. In this, Goku gifts Oob the Flying Nimbus, and Toriyama's message to the reader was changed to Vegeta promising himself to one day overcome Kakarot. A lot of people have problems with that particular part of the the ending. And I gotta say, I do really like Toriyama's message at the end, but I prefer the Kansenban over the original release. The narration at the end has also been changed, from the world always being safe thanks to the Dragon Balls, into the world being safe because of strong people. I don't know which one I prefer. Ford. 2 Ford car commercials were made starring Dragon Ball characters. In the first one, Krillin and Gohan wish on Porunga for a Ford Focus, while the second one takes place at Kami's Lookout, as Goten and Trunks fuse into a Ford Fusion. Sailor Moon also has some commercials for the company. Body of the Iceberg. Pre-Toriyama Battle of Gods. Battle of Gods was originally conceived as a movie with little involvement from Toriyama. The Super Saiyan God was going to be muscular and caped, while Beerus was going to be a reptile, and seemingly more evil. Toriyama was shown the designs and the story to the movie, and he pretty much took over. He decided he wanted to be more involved with Dragon Ball overall, because Dragon Ball Evolution and Battle of Gods. As Toriyama said in the 2016 Super History book, I had put Dragon Ball behind me, but seeing how much that live-action film ticked me off, and how I revised that script for the anime movie, and complained about the quality of the TV anime, I suppose somewhere along the line, it's become a series I like too much to ever leave alone. The disdain he had for Evolution seemed to have pushed Toriyama into working on Battle of Gods and Dragon Ball overall more. The Galactic Patrolman series. When talking about the Galactic Patrol, Dragon Ball fans often just think of Jacko and his manga. However, that's not where the Galactic Patrol stops. It is loosely a series of its own. Their first appearance was in Sachi-chan, a manga by Akira Toriyama and Masakazu Katsuda, whom you may know most recently as the artist behind Astral Chain. They show up briefly, and with different symbols, to arrest a gang of space pirates. Jaya was the second installment in the series, also drawn by Katsuda. Jaya, a Galactic Patrolman, arrives to take down a rebel patrolman. The Galactic King is mentioned here as well, and later shown in the final installment of the series, Jacko the Galactic Patrolman. This one was drawn and written by Toriyama, where he refined what the Galactic Patrol was within the Dragon world. Jacko has of course since then appeared in many Dragon Ball installments. Great Saiyaman 3. The Great Saiyaman 3 is a concept used in many different ways. For one, in the Dragon Ball EVER manga by Toyotaro, and going by the name Toyobo back then, Goten takes up the mantle. Funny enough, Toyotaro revisited the idea to a degree in Dragon Ball Super, as Goten and Trunks are the Great Saiyaman X1 and X2. In Dragon Ball Heroes, the name Great Saiyaman 3 is given to Xeno Trunks as he comes into Beat's world undercover in Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission. In the same game, Beat also takes on the role of the Great Saiyaman 4, and of course, just to mention them all, Gohan is the Great Saiyaman 1 and Videl the Great Saiyaman 2. Toriyama's editors. Akira Toriyama didn't write Dragon Ball in a vacuum. He had an editor at all times that oversaw the art and the story of Dragon Ball to make sure it made for a compelling tale. Through Dragon Ball, Toriyama had 3 editors: Kazuhiko Torishima, Yu Kondo, and Fuyoto Takeda. They had huge roles to play in Dragon Ball. Torishima in particular had a lot of influence, even after he left the series. He was the one who recruited Toriyama into Shonen Jump in the first place, and has served as inspiration for both King Piccolo and Dr. Mashirito from Dr. Slump. I will talk a little bit more about him later. He left Dragon Ball after the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai arc to become editor-in-chief of V-Jump, and later Shonen Jump. He was followed as editor of Dragon Ball by Yu Kondo. He led Toriyama to make Dragon Ball much more action-focused, with greater spectacle and increasing power, and things that he was the basis for Frieza and future Trunks. Interestingly, he had a background in shoujo, manga aimed at young girls, and tried to listen to the female fans of Dragon Ball and take their opinions into account when editing the series. He left following the Cell arc. The final editor was Fuyoto Takeda, who stuck around for the entirety of the Buu arc. He is notable for having a much looser take on editing Toriyama, allowing him to do more things he wanted to do, and given Mr. Satan a larger role. He thinks that he was the inspiration for Majin Buu, though Toriyama has denied basing villains on his editors consciously. Victory Uchida. The editor-in-chief of V-Jump, he also acts as some sort of mascot. He serves as editor to Dragon Ball Super and works alongside Toyotaro and Toriyama on the stories. Dr. Mashirito and Piccolo Fusion. In the Nintendo DS game Jump Superstars, Dr. Mashirito and Piccolo have a team attack where they fuse with each other. Why these two characters? Well, besides being Toriyama villains, they were both inspired by the same manga editor, Kazuhiko Torishima. DB Geinin and Identity Tajima. DB Geinin is a comedy group that cosplays Dragon Ball characters in Japan and makes some really funny content. You may have seen some of their stuff on Twitter. My personal favorite is when they do music videos. R. Fujitomo plays Vegeta and is the face of the group. I love his cosplay. Identity Tajima is a comedy duo which often collaborates with R. Fujitomo, as one of their main characters to play is Masako Nozawa, the Japanese voice of Son Goku. Filler arcs / other filler. Nearly every long-running shonen will have filler in order to prevent it from catching up to the manga. Even Kai, which promised to cut filler out, kept some of it. Filler includes the Garlic Jr. saga, the Other World tournament, the 3 years of training after the Red Ribbon saga, and more. Toriyama aided the staff with some filler, such as adding Gregory, giving the Saiyans a backstory with the Tuffles, Pikkon, and more. Gogeta vs Vegito. A hotly debated topic through the Dragon Ball fandom. These two are Goku's and Vegeta's fusions, and now they both have the same amount of transformations, thanks to Dragon Ball Super Broly and Dragon Ball Heroes. So fans often debate who would win, by providing evidence from outside the series, such as quotes, statements, and more. Even Death Battle got in on this, and I have my own take on it. Toriyama's contribution to Dragon Ball GT. GT, as all of you guys know, was an anime-only sequel to the original manga. While Toriyama did have little involvement, that doesn't mean he had no involvement whatsoever. In fact, Dragon Ball GT was his title. It stands for Grand Touring, sometimes also called Galaxy Touring. It's a reference to the first arc, and how Goku, Trunks, and Pan were planet hopping through it. He also drew a design for it. Not only that, but he provided character designs for all the main cast, so the staff could see what they would look like 7 years after the original series was over. This includes GT Goku, Pan, Trunks, and Giru, but he went beyond the core 4 as well. Perhaps most importantly, he drew Vegeta with that mustache many people don't like, and that haircut. He also designed the GT spaceship, which I love the design of, and made 3 really cool images of the GT team. Curiously, you can clearly see that Trunks wields a gun in it, while Pan wears a jean jacket, 2 things that never happen in the show. But of course, this served mostly as concept art. Yamcha manga. Published in 2016 and drawn by Dragon Garo Lee, it focuses on a high school student who has an accident and suddenly wakes up as Yamcha. He uses his knowledge of Dragon Ball to make himself relevant and stronger, even getting his potential unlocked by the Namekian Grand Elder. It's really fun and I encourage you all to read it. Dragon Garo Lee made fan manga before he was officially hired to make this story. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Some of the most fun name puns in Dragon Ball come from the Majins. Bibbidi, the creator of Boo, Bobbidi, his son, and Boo himself make Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, named after the Cinderella song, while the Dragon Ball Heroes characters Salaga and Mekikabula make up more of the song, Salagadula Mekikabura Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, something like that. Monster Carrot and the Moon. Monster Carrot was an early Dragon Ball villain. He was defeated in an unusual way as he was taken to the moon by Goku, in a sort of spin of the Moon Rabbit mythical figure of Japan. The moon has been destroyed many times in Dragon Ball, yet he is still up there. We can see him making mochi, something that's also part of the Japanese legend. Dragon Ball Super theories. Many fun theories came from Dragon Ball Super, especially during the Tournament of Power. I'm not gonna go through all of them or really explain them much, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know about them. This includes the theory that Hit was not eliminated, but his clone was. One about Jiren's brother, El Hermano, coming in, and Gohan Blanco. Funny enough, it seems like some of them are slowly coming true. This is the ultimate battle in all the universes. Son Goku vs Jiren. On October 8th, 2017, a special for Dragon Ball Super aired, which combined episodes 109 and 110, the episodes where Goku obtains Ultra Instinct Omen for the first time. There were a few differences with the regular episodes. It was also advertised alongside One Piece, as it had a special a week before. Fan manga artists becoming official. Many Dragon Ball fan artists have become official artists. The most prolific one, of course, is Toyotaro, who drew Dragon Ball AF under the name Toyble. There's also Dragon Garo Lee, who created Dragon Ball Sai, a story about Vegeta landing on Earth instead of Goku. He went on to do That Time I Was Reincarnated as Yamcha. Naho Oishi, the artist behind Dragon Ball SD, episode of Bardock, and Yo Son Goku and His Friends Return, originally drew some raunchy Dragon Ball doujinshis under the name Jichi. Furusawa Junya, one of my favorite Dragon Ball illustrators, originally made doujinshi before becoming an official artist in the 90s as well. Toriyama's choice for Krillin. Toriyama only specified the voice of a single character while choosing the roles for the series, and that was Krillin. Toriyama watched Night on the Galactic Railroad and thought Mayumi Tanaka's performance was especially good, and specified that he wanted her to play Krillin. She's now most well known for playing Luffy from One Piece. Toribot. Toribot is the avatar Toriyama uses to represent himself. It is not his first avatar, as he used to use birds before, since Tori means bird. He has appeared in Dr. Slump, Dragon Ball, even Blue Dragon. Toribot is said to be the ruler of the Dragon Ball multiverse, though he is simply a joke from the looks of it. After all, we have Zeno now. Kamehameha Origin. Though in-universe the Kamehameha was created by Master Roshi over the course of 50 years, the most iconic blast attack in all of anime was named by Toriyama's wife, Nachi Mikami, who named it after the Hawaiian king of old. Toriyama had been struggling with the name and tried out many different poses before settling on the iconic one. Minoru Maeda, the lead animator and character designer for Dragon Ball from the start of the anime all the way to the Cell Saga. He oversaw the production of the anime and defined the look for early Dragon Ball. Not only that, but did all of Dr. Slump prior as well. He began as a key animator for the test pilot of Dr. Slump, working for Studio Junio. He is known for the roundness of his style, which didn't fit Dragon Ball as well when Toriyama began to draw more angularly. It is likely he may have left because of this. He had a great admiration for Toriyama, especially his early art style. He also did the illustrated side stories, which I will cover later on, promotional illustrations, covers, and much more. He was very much involved in the series outside of the anime. Tadayoshi Yamamoto, the man whom we all owe a lot of our childhoods to, as he was the lead character designer for a large part of the series, and the most well-known animator and animation supervisor. He took over as character designer following the end of the Cell games alongside Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru. Yamamoto had probably the most recognizable art style for Dragon Ball besides Toriyama himself, and defined what the series would look like. However, he fell out of favor around Battle of Gods, as his character designs meant the animation would often be stiff, and the characters ugly with extra glow and shading they didn't need. Many fans criticize him nowadays, and he was replaced with Naohiro Shintani for Dragon Ball Super Broly. He does still work in Dragon Ball, however, in Dragon Ball Heroes. Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru. Nakatsuru was the main character designer alongside Yamamoto from the Buu Saga to the end of GT. Perhaps he is most well known for being the man behind Super Saiyan 4 and his unique art style that looks very similar to Toriyama's but with his own flair. Toriyama himself has praised this style. He was also the animation supervisor for the Bardock special and designed many characters. Personally, he is my favorite Dragon Ball artist besides Toriyama. He was later the artist for Cashman and the brief return of Dr. Slump, two other Toriyama properties. Naohiro Shintani. During the production of Dragon Ball Super Broly, an audition was held to find the next animation supervisor that would define the look for the film. Shintani, who had previously worked on Dragon Ball in the 2008 Jump special, was granted the job, as Toriyama praised his style. Toriyama had been critical of the Dragon Ball Super anime, so this was a breath of fresh air. Shintani brought a bounciness to the series and a sense of speed and fluidity, which had been rarely seen in the modern era. I hope we see his return in the next Dragon Ball animation. And we'll probably make more in the future. Revived universes. A fan theory that asks about the universes Zeno is said to have destroyed prior to the series. With the wish from Android 17 to return the universes destroyed after winning the Tournament of Power, could the 6 destroyed universes have been brought back too? There are certainly possibilities for stories there. Beat, a descendant of Goku. Beat is the avatar and protagonist of the Dragon Ball Heroes video games. He is a boy from the real world who is teleported into the Dragon Ball Heroes universe by playing the Dragon Ball Heroes arcade game and has adventures with Goku and the rest. However, in a strange twist of fate, World Mission confirmed that Beat is a descendant of Goku and a part Saiyan Earthling. Dragon Ball SD. Written and drawn by Naho Ishii, Dragon Ball SD is a comedic manga series that reinterprets the story of Dragon Ball in a funny way. It began in 2010 and is still being published on Saikyo Jump. It's not available in English officially, sadly. Although it's aimed at kids, it's quite funny. Launch Forgotten. Fans often joke that Toriyama forgot all about Launch, but this isn't really true. Launch was included in a short manga during the events of the Frieza Saga, where we see what the other Z Fighters are doing during Christmas time. Later on, she was supposed to appear during the Spirit Bomb scene in the Buu Saga, but she was ultimately replaced by Android 17 by Akira Toriyama. She does, however, show up in the anime version, giving energy from a truck. Xenoverse 2 manga. As part of the collector's edition of Xenoverse 2, Toyotaro drew a very short manga introducing a hero to Kanton City. The Time Patroller gets pulled through a time rift, where he teams up with Goku and Ace, the hero from Xenoverse 1, to defeat Cooler and Frieza. Dragon Ball Super Broly X Tokyo Skytree special event. A special video made to promote Dragon Ball Super Broly was shown at the Tokyo Skytree. Goku flies up to the window, wondering if the Skytree is taller than Korin Tower. Goku has the Dragon Balls, but he gets called up to King Kai's. As Goku leaves, Frieza shows up to ask about the Saiyan's power, with Shenron granting him his wish. Goku returns and both Blue Goku and Golden Frieza clash. It's short but cute. Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan and his films have been a great influence to Dragon Ball and Akira Toriyama. For the 1986 film My Lucky Stars, Jackie Chan met with Akira Akira Toriyama. The film has a whole sequence where Jackie Chan dresses up as a Rayleigh and battles at a theme park. Jackie Chan is a noted fan of Toriyama's work, and Dr. Slump was huge in Hong Kong. For the 22nd Birdland Press publication, Toriyama and Jackie Chan did an interview together, took pictures, and Toriyama gifted Jackie Chan a drawing of him. Fan-made power levels. These were much more prominent in the early to mid-2000s. I'm sure a lot of you remember seeing these videos with power levels post-Frieza saga. There are many fan-made power levels for the moments of the series where we don't have official numbers for. They still stir up debates to this day. Full-color manga revelations. Toriyama has revealed many details and mysteries over the past few years. Some of the most surprising ones come from the full-color manga release of Dragon Ball, as they had a Q&A section with him. A lot of that info I will mention now, but I want to keep things as single subjects, so I'm gonna add information from different interviews and stuff like that when relevant. The past of the androids. Toriyama revealed that androids 17 and 18's names are Lapis and Lazuli respectively, named after a gem which has the same color as their eyes. 17 is married to a zoologist, having one child with her and adopting 2 others. Additionally, androids don't need to eat, but they do need water, and can become stronger by training. A lot of this information was later used to inform Android 17's appearance in Dragon Ball Super. Jiro created all the weapons used by the Red Ribbon Army, and created androids so they couldn't be used by their enemies, unlike traditional weaponry. As mentioned earlier, it was also in these Q&As where it was revealed that Gevo, Jiro's son, was the model for Android 16. Android 19's model was a doll won as a war trophy from an enemy base. The secrets of the fusion. The fusion part of the fusion dance is very important to sync up minds, but once you get it down, a simple ha is enough. Above that, beings of different sizes and power can in fact fuse, but it's extremely difficult. There are many types of fusions out there. The one Goku learned was specifically made to increase power. Majin Buu's origin. The way Babidi got his gang was by using a summoning spell and taking over their minds, making them loyal to him. Babidi was actually born as a doppelganger of Bibidi, rather than him being his literal son. Once Bibidi died, Babidi inherited all of Bibidi's powers. Although it is told to us in the anime and the manga that Majin Buu was created by Bibidi, Toriyama revealed in a 2014 Psycho Jump Q&A that he was actually born in time immemorial. Bibidi was just the one who knew the spell to awaken him from his many hibernations. The spell to summon him is this, which cannot actually be pronounced, although by typing that into Google Translate, I may have accidentally summoned Buu. He doesn't need to eat or anything like that, he just likes candy and was pure evil, so when it came time to clean his soul and put it into Oop's body, it was an instant process. Even so, there's a Kakarot side story where it takes a little longer so Goku gets to fight him again. Mr. Satan's origin. In the same Psycho Jump interview, Toriyama explained that Mr. Satan grew up training in the Satan Castle dojo. He wasn't bad, but his luck took him a long way, as his opponents often had food poisoning. He became the champion of the world and took the name of his dojo. His real name is Mark, or Maku in Japanese, a pun off of Akuma, meaning demon. His master was killed at a bar in South City after they made fun of Tao Pai Pai's haircut. From then, Mr. Satan promised to never fight anyone whom he didn't know the identity of, nor someone he knew he couldn't beat. He was married to a singer named Miguel, a name taken in contrast to Satan's, as it comes from the name of the archangel Miguel. Big Green Dub. Made
Answer me. Who are you?
It's Big Green!
Let that child alone.
Made by the AB Group, this was an English dub of the Dragon Ball movies and specials up to movie 9. It is known for various changes, ridiculous dialogue, and strange voice acting. It has been named the Big Green Dub because of how Piccolo is referred to. It's really funny. The first appearance and origin of Super Saiyan 4. Super Saiyan 4 actually first appeared in December 1996, a whole month before it was shown in the anime, in the Japanese Cardass magazine. Created for Dragon Ball GT and designed by Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, Super Saiyan 4 is known for its crimson fur, but in the magazine he's instead colored gray. Nakatsuru was inspired by Kabuki Regishi actors. The inspiration can clearly be seen with the red eyeliner. Dragon Ball Z, Atsumare Goku Warudo. In 1992, a Terebiko game called Dragon Ball Z Gather Together Goku's World came out. This was a VHS-based game, where a player uses a phone controller to answer questions and command characters. It takes place as Cell waits for the Cell games, but with a younger Gohan. Goku, Trunks, Krillin, Gohan, and Bulma travel back in time to relive some of the events of the series, with Goku even interacting with Kid Goku. In the end, Goku confronts Cell and forces him to flee. Dragon Ball drawn by other artists. Many mangaka have drawn Dragon Ball for different occasions, such as the 30th anniversary history book, including Murata, Kubo, Togashi, and many more. Similarly, the 40th anniversary Super Gallery features cover pages redrawn by mangaka. 19 have been made at the time of this video. Sage Goku / Kame Naruto. In Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 3, Naruto has an alternate Kame outfit, complete with the power pole and a Kamehameha-like Rasengan. In Battle of Z, Goku has Naruto's Sage Mode outfit and charges ki by doing ninja hand signs. They are based on art by Akira Toriyama and Masashi Kishimoto from the Naruto book Naruto Secret, Scroll of Everyone official fanbook. This is not the first time Kishimoto drew something Toriyama related, nor would it be the last. Hearts. Also called the God Eater, he is one of the main antagonists of Dragon Ball Heroes. Little is known about him, but he has teamed up with various other villains as he wants to kill the gods and create a new universe with none of them. He later teams up with Goku as well, and is voiced by the voice of Dio in Japanese from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Takehito Koyasu. Irwin toys and Goku with a gun. The amount of times Goku has appeared with guns is weird, and often a meme in the community. One of the first instances of this is with the Irwin line of toys that came out in the West. They repackaged figures from different toy lines, such as AB Group and Bandai. A lot of them came with guns for some strange reason, when the figures couldn't even hold most of them. Funny enough, many of the Cell and Buu Saga figures came out before the dub even reached those sections, spoiling it for many people. This isn't the only instance of Goku with a gun though, as he finds one in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and Goku is now in Fortnite, so there you go. Intended endings. There have always been rumors about how Toriyama wanted to end the series. I have a full video about this, but here's a short summary. Akira Toriyama had planned for the story to end within a year, ending when the Dragon Ball hunt was over. What changed is not exactly clear, but it was obviously getting popular, so the story continued. Another point where the series could have ended was at the King Piccolo arc. Toriyama had no intentions to end it, as he answered a question about it on the Tankobon of Volume 12 Q&A. However, he did threaten to end it in protest to his editor. Back then, it was very rare to have a shonen protagonist grow up, but Toriyama was determined to make Goku into an adult. Otherwise, he would not continue, as his editor Torishima recounts in Shenlong Times number 2. Maybe he wanted to end it in the Saiyan saga, though there isn't much evidence for that. Perhaps the most prominent rumor about this is for the Frieza saga. It kinda seems natural for Dragon Ball to end when Goku dies and defeats the Emperor of the Universe, but we know 100% that this was not the case. In 1991, Toriyama had an interview published in Jump Gold Collection, Dragon Ball Z Anime Special 2. To quote him, "Still though, it's strange that even after doing so much Dragon Ball, I don't want to end it yet. Normally, I'm pretty fickle by nature." This magazine was published around the time before Goku turned into a Super Saiyan, so we know he didn't mean to end it just yet. The Cell Saga is another possible ending, as it is perhaps the most obvious one, since Goku is dead and Gohan has become the hero. However, there is nothing to suggest that this was the case, nor has Toriyama ever said anything of the sort. He probably had no choice but to continue, and Shonen Jump, his editor, and Bandai probably would have not been very happy. He may have wanted to end it, but he did not intend the Cell Saga to be the ending. In the end, the series ended with the Buu Saga. The many Dragon Ball Heroes manga. There are so many Dragon Ball Heroes manga, so I'm just gonna list them here and tell you a little bit about each. Victory Mission. Running from 2012 to 2014 on V-Jump and drawn by Dragon Ball Super's Toyotaro, Victory Mission was a mix of episodic and serialized chapters. It focused on Beat, a young boy who gets sent into the Dragon world and has to team up with the Dragon Ball heroes to defeat Janemba Baby. Other avatars are introduced along the way, with new villains and heroes from the arcade. A few extra chapters were also released, promoting Battle of Gods, adult Gotenks, etc. Even a special story featuring Majin Buu and Neko Majin. Charisma Mission. Running on and off from 2013 to 2020, this series ran in Saikyo Jump and was drawn by Yoshitaka Nagayama. It focused on Yoshito Tsubasa and Momo as they enter the Dragon world and play with the mechanics of the game. The following 4 are also drawn by Yoshitaka Nagayama and are more or less the main series of Dragon Ball Heroes, and the story the anime very loosely adapts. Dark Demon Realm. This tells the story of Trunks after defeating Cell and being brought in to become a time patroller by the Kaioshin of Time. Xeno Trunks is joined by Xeno Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Goten, and come into conflict against Mira and Towa, as well as other members of the Dark Demon Realm and Time Breakers. Universe Mission. It ran around the same time as Dark Demon Realm. The Xeno heroes team up with the Dragon Ball superheroes as they are lured into the prison planet by Fu. They must also face off against the core area warriors, led by Hearts. It was collected into 2 volumes, Prison Planet and Universe Seed. Big Bang Mission. The sequel to the last 2. It once again follows the Xeno and superheroes. Fu plans on using the Universe Tree for his nefarious acts, and God Trunks is introduced. Ultra God Mission. The current Dragon Ball Heroes manga. Following the Big Bang mission, many characters from different Dragon Ball timelines are brought into a space-time tournament as teams. It features Eos, the previous Kaioshin of Time. Since this is currently running, there's many questions to be answered. Avatars. This one is drawn by Yuji Kasai. It is set in the real world and focuses on Beta and Noko, alternate versions of Beat and Note from the original Victory Mission and the arcade game. Super Dragon Ball Heroes anime. The Super Dragon Ball Heroes anime is a promotional anime that has surprisingly good music and sometimes animation. The episodes are pretty short and loosely follow the events of some of the manga. It's whatever, but it's at least something Dragon Ball related that's coming out. Super Majin Titima. In Dragon Ball Online, you can find Titima as a master in the lands of Korin, but that's not why she's here. You may have seen her image before. She's often cited as being Majin Buu's wife, or Ms. Buu. She is in fact not her. This stems from a mistake in an early version of the Taiwanese Dragon Ball Online guidebook, where she was labeled as Ms. Buu. She is an unrelated character. She is not Majin Buu's wife. But that does lead us into Bob and Margaret. According to the Korean Dragon Ball Online timeline, in age 790, Majin Buu finds a book named Bob and Margaret, one of Mr. Satan's dirty books. Majin Buu ends up wanting someone to love, so Majin Buu splits himself, creating Ms. Buu. The two of them continue to read Bob and Margaret to try and figure out how to get children, and ultimately use the Love Beam to give birth to Baby Buu, and many others, because the Majin Buu race just continues to grow from there, even having their own little communities in the Dragon Ball world by the time Dragon Ball Online comes around. Coincidentally, Bob and Margaret is also the book Master Roshi uses to teach Goku and Krillin how to read. In Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, the book is named Bob and Margaret's Forbidden Games. Wow, I ended up editing that in the span of 1 week, and I'm recording this 3 hours before the video is supposed to go out. It was a ton of fun for me to make, but remember, we're not done yet. There's gonna be a second part, so don't forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then consider joining the Patreon. Patrons get to see videos like this early, and are the best way to support the channel. So, shout out to the Patreons. Yo Mama 420, The Dude Mitchell, Justin, Mao Lick, Daddy, Super Samurai, Beastie Man 420, Faisal Alsharef, Akko, Giovanni Jimenez, Zanos, D-Man for Life, Marlon Gonzalez, Blaze 9526, Christ PlayStation CK, Free Flow Highway, Mystic Angel, Shane K, True Lightning Striker, Ghost 1571, Kaiser Jirachi, Trent Rolls, D-Man Plays 22, Jim G, Jerome Foster, Salil Paranjape, Keith Grimes, Dreadpool, and Samuel Randall. Anyways guys, I really hope you guys learned something. Hit me up on Twitter at SmugStickDB, and until we meet again, see ya!